This AI automation automatically assigns tasks to your users inside of a project management system that we built for a client. Now, I don't understand why so many of these other big tools like Monday.com, Asana, and ClickUp don't have these types of AI automation features within their tools. It's mind-blowing to me that me and my team can spend, 50, 60 hours building out a more realistic project management system based on what capabilities we have today. So in this video, it's video number 5 of 6 in a 6-part series where I talk about how we can actually assign and create tasks inside of Airtable in the Airtable system that we built and automatically assign those tasks to our team members after AI has actually already automatically created our project management plan. Does that sound pretty interesting? I hope it does, because I have never seen anybody talk about this, but we're going to be diving deep into here. So we've already gone through how the table is set up. We've gone through how the interfaces work. We've gone through how AI creates the project plan by looking at our context, by looking at our team members and our tools, and creates that entire plan automatically. If you haven't watched those videos yet, I highly recommend going back to video number 1 and working your way through before you get here. So it makes so much more sense, because today in this video, we're going to be picking up from step number 3, the third automation in the 3-part automation series that takes our final project plan and then begins to assign the tasks to the right people. So let's dive into that now. And as always, we start with the same type of method up front, which is we're triggering the automation via a webhook, and we come back into our projects table here. So we have our distribute tasks button, and that button contains a formula with that webhook. So that webhook is here, and then we send in all of the extra information for our different table IDs that we need for this automation to work. And then we have like an extra formula up top here that says only allow this button to be pushed if those fields have something in it. So that's why if I just close out of this, you can see these ones here cannot be pushed because those fields have not been completed. So it just helps the user experience a little bit better when we're actually building, to make sure that the user knows, okay, I need to have these fields filled in before I can actually get to this automation. Because if they don't, then the automation is going to error and everyone's going to get confused. So that's just a little advanced building technique we've picked up over the last 18 months. But if we come back into here, so we're simply saying trigger the webhook. This second one captures the webhook, so it closes the window automatically. We then get the information from Airtable. So we're using an Airtable API call when we're building projects and templates for clients. The reason why is because if you were to use your typical create a record, get a record Airtable module inside of make.com, you would have to remap that every single time that you import it into a new account. The reason why that is important is because if you were to buy our template that we're selling for this project Command OS 2.0, it would literally take you 10 minutes to set up because of the way that we've built it. Whereas if we didn't use API, the difference in time to set that up would probably be somewhere between 3 to 4 hours. So it's like 5, 10x more time to actually set up those templates just because of the way that it was built. So you got to remember that if you are wanting to really become great at this, you've got to think about how can you build these types of tools and these types of blueprints in the best way possible. What you see on YouTube all the time are typically the easiest ways to do things, the things that aren't really built into what I would call like a systems design approach, so that if you ever need to make changes, import them into other accounts, debug them, they're an absolute nightmare. So that's why so many of these automations are not practical at all. The way that we build things and the way that we educate on what we build is by taking a really smart systems design approach, so that you're not creating 10 times more work downstream. We're actually eliminating so much work up front by just making things a little bit differently compared to, what most people would typically do. So after we get that information from Airtable, we then want to give the user an idea of what's happening. We're updating the task distribution status to say that it's in progress. So if I come into this workflow now, we would execute this task here from this create team member tasks workflow. We can choose whether it's going to be simple or granular. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. And then it updates here to say that the task distribution is in progress. So it's essentially saying that the automation is running. We want to give as much information as we can on this interface so the user actually knows what's happening. Now, like I said, we had an option here in this workflow whether to do simple or granular tasks. So we have a explanation of what that means. The main tasks are assigned as is with a short description for simple. And then Granular, tasks are split up into key steps based on the task details and project info, and then get assigned to the relevant team member. So you want to use these with larger scale projects with longer timelines or higher complexity. 9 times out of 10, you just need to do it simple. Then you might want to do more granular moving forward. But basically, we now have that information to work with. So we come back into here. So we have our 2 routes. So our 2 routes are filtered by what we just talked about, which is simple task list is filtered by that field and saying the text operator equals to simple. Then same on this end. So the text operator equals to granular. So it's just pulling in that information from our Airtable base, and then it's filtering through each route depending on what has been selected. We then pull in the team members from our team member database. So remember, we have our database of all our team members in here, and then we pull that information in so that we can use it to assign the tasks. So that's all it is. It's just a call to get that information as well. We set a few variables for the different team members in here. Then we have those variables available to use throughout the rest of it. So we have in here now the ability to pass this into our first open router. So open router is how we can use any type of LLM in our workflows, just with a few simple clicks rather than updating the entire system itself. So we have in here a model selected, and actually what we've done in this one, I forgot about this until right now. Sometimes the automations can use different models that are cheaper to run and they still do the job. So like, for example, you don't want to be using a reasoning model to do just a very simple task. So rather than having the model pushed in via the actual dashboard, then we actually just sometimes we choose which models to use so that we're not using so much AI credits. So that's also another little tip. But we have that set up, and basically what we're saying in here is you're an expert coder with extensive knowledge in JSON. So we're giving it some information about what the JSON is all about. We're giving it the format that we want it to follow. We're giving it the different assignees examples, and we're saying very important, your output is always only JSON, do not add any intro, outro, blah, blah, blah. Here is a good example. And we're giving that information so that the AI knows what to do. Then we're saying, okay, here's the JSON, and giving it a little bit more context again. And then here's the task list that we want you to take and begin to output that into the JSON. So we send that output from the AI output into a JSON string, and then we begin to iterate through it. So iterating through each of those tasks in this iterator, which means as it finds that information, so let's open up this, we've got our array of information here that was output from the AI output. So it's all an array. So we want to iterate through each of these arrays and then send them eventually into the Airtable module up the top here. So if we open up, we can see all of that now has been structured in the right way. And then we're just saying, okay, here's the description. We've got the task title. So the task title is already there. It's giving it an option to maybe improve that. We've got our start date. So we have an AI prompt in here to choose a good start date. We're having then also a good end date. So we're giving it all the information it needs to create a start and end date. And then we're asking it to identify the right team members. So here it's actually going through and it's looking at all of the team members that it requires. Not sure why that value is not in there like that. Cool. So then it's saying, here's the list of team members that we have. Then we have only assign a team member from the project assign team members list. Do not add team members who do not appear in the list. Make sure to only assign one person, and giving it some extra context down the bottom here. Again, we're just choosing a model that works, that is cheaper to use than what our normal selection is here. And then before we add it into Airtable, we turn some of the information into JSON. So this is the task description to make sure that's added into, turn into JSON before we send it back into Airtable. And then we're saying, okay, go to the distributed task table. So if we come back into here, we have a task table that allows us to now create all of this information here. So you saw how that worked in video number 1, where it was dropping in each task. So that's what this entire workflow is doing, is it then drops in all of the information that we need from, or that we've gathered and created from these AI outputs in this workflow here. And then what happens as soon as it gets through the first one, it comes back to this iterator here, and begins to work through collection 2 and then collection 3. Okay, so if you're not entirely following, let's go into the more granular one now and really dive into explaining this a little bit better and seeing how it works. So let's just do a run once on a granular production and we'll check what that looks like. So we come back into our workflow here and let's just bring up the same one again. Then we can compare the two to see how it all works. So if I go down to the bottom again and then I choose granular, and then we're going to distribute these tasks via the granular route. And we can see now, so it comes down, it gets our team members. So basically it's pulling in all the information from that team members record. So we can see here, we've got our first record, it's pulled in, which is the admin person on our team. And it's got all of the roles and responsibilities in here as well. So it's pulling in that information so we can actually use that throughout the rest of the workflow. So we transformed the team members into JSON so we can use it here now. The team members that were assigned to this task or that were responsible for this task in our planning phase. So we've got the 2 team members in there that would need to be added into this particular task. So all of that's been added in, and we've got now our output. So let's have a look in here. Our output now contains this task, day 1, May 12, 8 to 12, Tim and Steve, develop AI TubeKit components, set up. So there's a few tasks within the main tasks. So we've got all of these getting added in here now as well. It's split out across the different days, depending on, the stage that the AI believes they should all be done. We then transform that. So we feed all of that JSON string into this parse JSON, and then we feed it all out as individual arrays. So we can see here, it's all fed out like this. Now, this is where we get to the difference with the granular, which is just like up here, where we were iterating through each of the tasks and then assigning them. That still happens here as well. But if we look at our tasks, there's actually 4 tasks within the main first task. So we're assigning more granular tasks to each of the team members. If we look at this operation now in our first task bundle, it actually has 4 subtasks: develop AI TubeKit, set up make.com, test integration points, document technical requirements. What this second iterator actually does is it splits all of those values into their own bundles or collections, so we can individually assign those tasks on their own. Then it continues to run through the same workflow, which is start and due time. We create a better description, date, identify our team members. With AI, we've got an error here. It always seems to happen on a trial run. Let me just fix that up. I'm actually just going to fix this while we're watching, because this is part of automation, right? You need to learn to figure out what the problems are. And I mean, there's nothing obvious there for me right now. It's giving a 422 error, I think it was. The task distribution status. We already almost fixed this before. So basically that field does not actually appear in this table. That field should be in here only in the update status, in the projects table, and then the task table doesn't actually have that field. So let's come back and try it again. So we can see now it's going to run through, and I'm not going to go through it all again, but we should come up here now in just a moment and see the new Airtable module start to drop them in successfully. So we can see now that it has been added in there successfully. So if we come back into our dashboard and we open up the project, and then if we come down all the way to the bottom with our tasks, so we can see now the tasks are getting dropped in here, and there should be way more tasks. I mean, I should have deleted all the original ones. You might, no, we can't really look at it. But basically, it's now dropping in all of those more granular tasks and assigning them to the right person on the team for that particular task. So we can see here, it's adding task descriptions. It's assigning it to the person. It's got the start and due dates, and it's going to be just building it out way more granular than the original one. But it's still giving a lot of context, right? Like it's still improving the description to make sure that the task is very clear. So the other thing is, we're making sure that we have clear task names within that workflow as well. So the task name and description is getting generated through this process as well, so that we can make sure that, the entire process is done predominantly through AI, but in a way that is beneficial for the business owner, where they have the right checks in place. They can check in, they can make sure the right things are getting planned out by the AI, they can remove things that they don't want, and the AI will then, take over and do huge amounts of work. So like I debated why do I share this in just an automation? Like surely I can turn this into a project management tool, and like so many project management tools that came before me, it can probably become an incredible piece of software that people would actually love to use. And you just refrain from trying to clutter the entire dashboard with all of the different non-needed features like ClickUp, like Monday.com, like all of these other tools that are out there. So if you are, someone that wants to dive into this more so than me and build a software, then buy this template, learn how we've built it, and then start to code it into your own software. You can probably make millions of dollars doing this. I'm just choosing not to. So take my idea, run with it, use it as many times as you want, install it into as many clients as you want, and I'm sure it'll be a great template for you. So in the next video, we're actually going to dive into how we turn all of this information here in the tables and create these really impressive dashboards. Like credit to Airtable, I think they've done really great with their dashboards and interfaces. So we're actually going to dive in. I'm going to show you how to edit these pages, how we pull all of these types of workflows together, how we use the existing templates that Airtable have, and what is the decision making behind the scenes, and how do we join it all together. So that's what's happening in the next video. So if you have not subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe right now, and I'll see you in the next one.